Closer to home, though, we have some exciting news. Our Larry Sprinkle is here after winning a very special award. It's the Steve Labor Leadership Award that recognizes people for opening doors in the community. First of all, congratulations, Larry.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was a nice honor, and it was at a big event they had up at Train, Trane, Train headquarters. You think of air conditioning, they have a huge corporate center up in Davidson, and they had a conference there yesterday, and it was at that conference, which was really about inclusion in the workplace for those with disabilities, and there are so many. It's almost so many to describe, but the event included people who were there as advocates. There were people who were in management, people who were there to represent different organizations. It was a big conference that they had, and part of that was being given this award right here. So
you have it. That's awesome.
There you go. But yeah, it was a nice honor. Very, very humbling experience for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is, just a really special award, I'm sure, to get. You've been with us at WCNC for such a long time and a part of the Charlotte community. So to get an award like this, I know that you've been honored with things before, but for this one in particular, it was a nice honor. A lot of people ask about you've been involved with all these organizations, and it's a story I don't share that often, but I certainly did yesterday. Is that from the time I was able to remember anything, probably from the time I was about 3 or 4 years old, my grandfather, who was a farmer, suffered a huge impairment to his body, lost a limb, and was disabled the entire time that I knew him, but it never stopped him. He kept farming. He worked on a farm sometimes just using his hands. He could swim. He could fish. He could do everything that able-bodied people can do without having all 4 limbs, and he was critically injured in that. So from the time I was a little kid, I grew up with someone who had a disability that I overlooked because they went beyond that. And on that farm where my grandfather had that was a family, and they had 2 sons. Both were mentally challenged. Both had severe disabilities. One, who was 20 years old, had the mind of a 4 years old, my age. So he was my friend. So I grew up with someone who had another type of disability. So my entire life has been around that. So it's just almost like giving back to the community. And then obviously something happened to me about 9 years ago where I became one of those, and was in a terrible crash on 485 and had to learn to walk again. I was in Carol's Rehabilitation Hospital for about 5 months without the ability to walk, with some really terrible injuries. And so to be in that situation is to learn what it's like to have a disability. So it was an education and a humbling experience. And an inspirational story, I'm sure, for everyone that knows you, and I'm sure that helps you tell a lot of these inspirational community stories here for us at WCNC, and I'm sure that impacts how you tell those stories.
It does. I mean, it's something. I don't go around like, hey, let me tell you what happened, and because it was pretty serious, and as I said, it stopped me literally for months. But it was, in a way, this is a reality check. You are now experiencing something that some people have their entire life. And to be in a wheelchair, to sit there on, and to look at people on that level, and not, you're standing over somebody, or someone is walking and running. And I remember sitting at the rehab hospital, sitting out front and watching people walk, and thinking, well, gosh, I forgot how to do that. And that's the truth. There's a disconnect between the mind and the physicality of walking. So I literally had to physically learn to do that again. So, as I said, it was a pretty humbling, mind-blowing experience.
I know that it's been many years since then, but if you could think back to it, was there something that helped you through that process of learning to walk again? Anything in particular?
So many things. It was, first of all, it was the people at Caroline's Rehabilitation Hospital, and so many I mean, from the surgeons who put me back together again, those people, to the whole group at Caroline's Rehab, Dr. Raj, who was an inspiration to me. He was there every day for me. And then just those who were who really worked with me on the physicality of being able to use your body to perform again.
Yeah.
And then in that mind-body disconnect, I mean, all those people, and then just other patients who were there, being with them, and all with different types of physical impairments, from injuries to birth defects and things like that. And just being among those people was an education in itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I know that community is always so helpful in moments like that. Not to put you on the spot, but we do have your acceptance speech. And so we're going to take a listen in real quick, James, I think.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you very much. When you pose for still pictures, you feel so phony and fake when I'm honored to be here today and to thank you, Pat. Thank you, the organization. To accept this award, it's dear to me because my entire life has been associated in some form, some way with those with disabilities, starting when I was old enough to remember. My grandfather, who was a farmer, had a horrendous accident on his farm. And so my memories of my grandfather, he was disabled, but he wasn't. Nothing stopped him. He had his leg amputated as high up as it could be. Never stopped him from being a farmer, never stopped him from swimming, never stopped him from playing practical jokes, which I inherited that ability. Never complained, never said, woe is me. So I grew up from the time I could remember that, oh yeah, maybe he didn't have a leg, maybe he wasn't able to use all of his limbs, but he did. He was a brilliant man. He was a wonderful inspiration to so many people. And on the farm that he had was a family that worked for him. They had 2 children. Both were, in their own way, disabled. They both had intellectual disabilities. One, when he was the age of 20, had the mind of a 4-year-old. I was a 4-year-old, so he was my best friend. So I grew up that these are people just like me. Maybe they're different, but they're differently able. They all have something to offer. So it's been kind of my life project to try to give back to the community and be a part of it, and to have been there at one point. So thank you very much, and thank you for allowing me to speak a few minutes here today. I thank you, Pat, and thanks to the organization. Thank you very much.
And Larry, we were just talking about this organization and this event as a whole that is, really important to the community. What can you tell us about Disability?
Yeah, Disability in North Carolina, the sponsoring agency for this event. And it really is an organization centered on focusing on inclusion. And when you talk about disabilities, there are so many. I met several people who, in a conversation and being with them, you would never know that they had a disability. One of those I spoke with was sight impaired, but you would never know it by looking at them, and there's no evidence of that. But each person, regardless of disability, has something to give, and I think companies are realizing that this is a huge community in this country, and they have a positive outlook on life. They're motivated. They're hard workers, and there's a place for those with any number of disabilities in the workforce. And many of those people who have various disabilities are not just workers; they also are in management as well. So it really covers all levels of a business operation.
Absolutely. And I know that this is so important to have those resources and to bring attention to them. Any other speakers or people that you met that you thought were really special?
I mean, there were so many people there. Nate Sally, now the name may or may not ring a bell, but Nate Sally was a keynote speaker. Nate grew up in Florida, was an athlete, played high school football, was a champion in that, and then he got the scholarship to this place in Ohio called The Ohio State.
Oh, I've heard of that, I guess.
Yeah. he was on the played with the Buckeyes and went to championship games with them, was a star athlete, and then went to the NFL and played for the Panthers for 4 years, and had a successful career in football. Suffered an injury and left football, and he started an organization that really is I would say a big advocate for people with disabilities, people who are challenged. And Nate was the keynote speaker. One of these people who is, I would say, when you talk about motivating, he's a real motivator. Got everybody fired up, you know, being an athlete. And so I think Nate's speech yesterday was something that exemplifies that, you know, we have so many people in this community from all walks of life. And here he was, a champion athlete, and now he's working really on a day-to-day basis, especially with blue-collar management, in kind of advocating for them to show them that you can be a great influence on everyone, and that inclusion is important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I know that hearing those personal stories and having a personal story yourself makes an award like this all the more special. So
Without
congratulations again.
Yeah, thank you.
All right,
thank you.
Larry.